Young kids are like sponges, and the more we expand their horizons and give them places to take risks in a safe environment and follow their innate curiosity and imagination, we're going to end up with better problem solvers, healthier, more robust, emotionally attuned adults. It's the best thing we could do for our society.
Before I went to architecture school, I was a teacher, and I worked with kids for about 14 years, working with kids 3 months to 5 years old. What I realized is that children don't get a lot of design attention in their lives. And so it became a goal that we build at Olson Kundig a place where children are some of our most important clients. And so the idea there is to sort of give them that design attention. And I think the Bay Area Discovery Museum allowed us to do things we've never done before and that are very, very particular to this place.
I'm a big user of children's museums, having a 6-year-old child, so I've been to a lot of them. In every city, I tend to go to them. And you realize that there is so much plastic and there is so much of the sameness in a lot of children's spaces that here, to be able to have spaces that has artwork around them, that they could be inspired by nature, and then also they have these beautiful views of the bridge as well. Hello, come in, come in. Do you want to go on the waterbed?
The setting around us here is an old Army base. We are very fortunate that before much of it was developed, the Golden Gate National Recreation Area worked with the board of the Bay Area Discovery Museum to move the museum here to take over 7.5 acres at the foot of the Golden Gate Bridge and to have this legacy for generations of children to come. It's been amazing.
Children never get this kind of real estate ever in this day and age. And the fact that some visionaries in the 80s thought to transform a military encampment into a children's museum was the most brilliant decision. It probably couldn't happen today. So kids get this landscape is at the base of the Golden Gate Bridge, right on the water.
So we're partners with the National Park Service to preserve these historic buildings, while at the same time transforming the insides and the grounds for children's learning.
It's almost like a geode where the outside is very different from the inside. So you have this street of wooden buildings, and every time you walk into one, there's this explosion of a completely different experience. That said, we wanted to make use of every inch of them. The kids have the ability to get up in the roof rafters of these spaces. We want kids to go everywhere, even places where their parents may not be able to see them every second, but they're completely safe and they would always come back to the same spot.
So the spaces are designed for children's education, but more importantly, learning that happens in the interaction between the child, the parent, and these exhibits that we've designed for them.
Whether or not that's either through risk, right? Like, oh, I realize my child might actually need my help, so I'm going to go help them. But also, it's really interesting. And for them to say, well, what if I spin this thing over in the Try It studio? Or what if I'm going to do my own little melody? Those kind of ways of engaging with adults is also a way that both adults and children together can have those shared experiences.
Because we believe that kids have the most memorable experiences at museums when they're actually engaging with their parents or their friends. Every piece of this is designed for adults to be as curious as kids are. We're literally looking at a mother and a kid right now, and they're actually trying to understand how this oven is working. So that's exactly what we've been trying to achieve. It's extraordinary because we're hearing learning, we're hearing imagination, we're hearing engagement. I love hearing these kids banging on those pianos. In studying children's art development and what happens when they draw is at about 5 or 6 years old, they start to draw in section. They'll draw a house and it'll draw the outside of the house, but you can see the rooms and the people and the kitchen and their family and all on the inside. And this is literally taking that house and actually brings it into the third dimension. Everything is sliced in half, and you can see how it works.
We wanted to take this idea that the world around you was not built by magic. It was built by people who had learned skills. It really was to demystify the environment that kids live in every day and help them learn about their own efficacy and agency within that.
One example I love is the toilet. By being able to flush and watch that water go down and refill, we are not actually teaching how a toilet works, right? You go in there and you don't see like the flapper lifts, the tank fills, but we're really trying to spark curiosity that there are these things that are encased in porcelain or in plastic or in wood, and there's something inside them that makes them work. So if a family goes home and a kid wants to lift up the lid to the toilet and watch what happens when they flush at home, our job is done. We want that learning to continue.
The reaction to having the real thing, like a real boat, the real thing has a soul to it that is critical to its success.
Faith is an old salmon trawler that would go up to Alaska and fish for salmon. We were able to refurbish it, and then we ended up sort of creating all sorts of little different experiences, and a lot of them rely on the existing materials. So keeping the same steering wheel, keeping all of the bells and the flags and the posts off of the boat. And we rotated it out a little bit to position it so that they would have a view of the bridge, the water, and make that connection between the boat and the water.
Every kid that goes by realizes this is a real boat, and I get to pretend that I'm driving this boat. I can make up my stories here. My imagination can go anywhere.
So we try to sprinkle imaginative play into everything we do. Even in this space, the Try It Studio focuses on early STEM experiences, specifically math, early engineering, and coding. And so a child may be too young to actually be thinking about what STEM means, but they might be thinking about blocks and patterns and spatial relationships. This block play area, we've got a projection, and what does it feel like to build a house and have the ocean flow through it? So we're hoping to spark that creative, imaginative spirit throughout.
As adults, we forget pretty quickly what it was to play and the knowledge that we held as young beings. And so what Alan and the architectural team did is they gave children a blank slate to dream what their ideal outdoor play space would be.
And I do this on every project I design for children. Get kids to draw their ideas. And we asked them to design the gumnut grove. And we came up with these amazing drawings, but one kid actually created this enormous drawing. And it literally had these pods up in the air and slides that were coming down. And all of the kids were like, it has to be scary. They wanted it to be challenging. They wanted it to be an accomplishment. We always ask ourselves, where does confidence come from? And it comes from experience like the ones these kids were actually drawing.
It's really important that it become immersive. I mean, in some ways, the idea of these gum nuts up in the sky is really to bring the kids into the canopy of the eucalyptus trees. So this sense that you are in the leaves, sort of branching structure of the eucalyptus, and that it's totally immersive in that regard, and maybe inspire curiosity.
I'm now up in one of the pathways between these two gum nuts that we've actually enlarged. And I'm literally looking at the San Francisco Bay, the Golden Gate Bridge, the mountains of Marin County. So we gave kids a view that they simply couldn't get when they were down below. And it's extraordinary. And I've been stealing designs from children for the past 30 years, and it always is the most popular parts of a project usually come from them. Every single thing that they drew about having climbing structures up high and pathways and so on. So when you look at their drawings, you basically see this design. But we're also giving them this sense of risk, accomplishment, building confidence, and everybody thinks twice, I think, before they go down that slide.
Creating spaces specifically designed for very young children and their loving grown-ups is essential to setting those children up for success in later life. The research tells us that. It's not just greater success in academic outcomes, its socio-emotional outcomes, and even economic outcomes. That when children are exposed to high quality, immersive, hands-on experiences that they're in control of, it builds confidence and resilience and all kinds of intelligences that set them up for success as they age and become adults.
Fundamentally, it starts with the history of the museum. It's in our DNA. We live in a repurposed Army base. We've always had a very strong connection to history and the environment and nature and preservation. But I think also from an educational philosophy, we recognize that children are their own best teachers and they have all the capacities they need to learn. They don't need a lot. You don't need to add a lot of complexity. They will build the complexity they need. Imagination is an incredibly powerful learning tool, and the more of it, the better.